Okay, hello friends, welcome to my another video. So today in this video we are going to discuss about the unit test in React. Okay, so this will give you a basic idea on how to write the tests, what are the libraries that we use, and then we'll just write a simple component, and then we'll see how to write a test for that component. Okay, so I'll have subsequent videos for regarding the same React testing, and then we'll cover more and more topics there. But this I'll keep it very short and simple, just to understand the very basics of how we can write the test for a React component. Okay, all right. So let's get started. So I have a very basic application here. So in this, I just have the app.js, and this just shows one label. I'm from app.js. Okay, this doesn't have anything else. So what I'm going to do is I will write a component. Okay, and in that component we'll write some elements, and then we'll try to run the test over that component to see if that whatever we have written, for example the elements that we have written, right, so that is actually rendered or not. Okay, so I have a component folder here, so I just go ahead and create a component called the user component dot js. Okay, and user component, it's creating a component. React class user component extends react dot component. So the render, I have the return, and what it does is have a put a div. We'll just have one span where it just have a label which says inside user component. Okay, so nothing else. Just export this one, export default user component. Okay, now I will import this user component into the app.js. Import user component from components slash user component. Okay, now what I will do is I will call that user component from here. Okay, so what we do is, when we run the application, it will just display this label which says inside user component. Okay. So I'm not going to run this application. What we'll do is we'll write a test for this this component that we have written. Okay, and we'll run the test to see if the test is passing or not. Okay, so for the React testing, I'm going to use the Enzyme library. Okay, so you need to install these two libraries here. I have already installed these two libraries, so I'm not going to install it again. But if you are setting a new project, so you need to install these two libraries. Okay, so one is the Enzyme, and second one is the Enzyme adapter React 16. Okay, so these two libraries you have to install it. Either you can use an npm install -dev then Enzyme, or maybe you can use it in the package.json, and then you can run an npm install. So once we have these two libraries installed, let's go ahead and create the test for the user component. Okay, so I have the this one, the test. So this is basically helping to run all the test. Okay, so basically if you run the npm run test, so it will take all the test files, and then it will run all the test and then show us the results. Okay, so when you write a test, so the first important thing is, so whenever you write a test, so that file name should be like should have the extension of .test.js. Okay, so that's how the React when it runs the test, so it just scans through the entire code base to, and it will identify all the files which has the extensions .test.js, and then it takes all those and then run the test. Okay, that's how it works. So just make sure that you have the test files written with the extension .test.js. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one folder inside. So this is another best practice. So whenever you want to write a test, you create a folder with the name __test __. Okay, So that's the folder that you should create, and then inside that I'm going to create a file, user component dot test dot js. Okay, so this is a test I'm going to write for the user component. Okay, so first thing I have to do is I have to import the enzyme. Okay, so enzyme from enzyme. Okay, second thing is you have to import the adapter from enzyme adapter vx60. Okay, so I've imported these two. Now what I'll do is I have to configure this. So the next step is just configure the enzyme dot configure adapter is new adapter. Okay, so this you should do. So we have the enzyme imported, then the enzyme configured. Okay, now we are all ready to start writing the test. So to start writing the test, so you have the describe and you have the it. Okay, so describe, which is basically used to include a set of test cases, and using the it keyword you write one test. Okay, so let's see how we can write a test. So I'm going to do is, this is a syntax for writing a describe. So describe and then put a bracket and then say, okay, these are the test cases for user component. Okay, so inside that I'm writing a function. So inside this, so this describe will include all the test cases for the user component. Okay, I'm going to write one unit test case for the user component. Okay, so the syntax for writing that is it. You should write it, then I should put a you should put a sentence of what you're trying to do as part of this test, right? So what I'm going to do is, so if you look at the user component, you have just a span, right? So I want to see when the application is started, I want to see if this span is rendered in the UI or not. Okay, so what we'll do is, I want to see it should render the span element on page load. Okay, so it should render the span element on page load. Okay, so I'm writing a function for this. So what I want to check here is, I want to render the component first and then see if it actually renders the element. Okay. So the way to render the component, or basically we will do a shallow rendering, we will not a deep rendering, we'll do a shallow rendering. Okay, so how we can do it is, I'm just defining a constant component is equal to shallow. So shallow is another is part of the enzyme, so it is imported from the enzyme. Okay, as you can see here, it's auto imported. Okay, you can import it from the enzyme. Shallow of user component. Okay, so what it does is, it will just create a shallow render this component, user component. Okay, next is, what I want to check is, let's say I'm going to define I have a span, right? So I want to identify the span inside this. So how I can do is, const text, I'm defining a text, const text equal to component dot find of span. I want to find a span element in my component dot text. So this will give me the text of the span. So that will be stored inside the text variable. Okay, so next what I want to do is, I want to see if the text is equal to inside user component. It's copying this. How we can check is, so there is another function called the expect, hence expect of text. Okay, so you want to see it's dot to equal. So there are different functions. So just to compare the text, you can use a to equal, or if you want to compare a numeric or a bool, you can use to be. So there are different functions like this. So for now I'm going to use the to equal. Okay, so to equal, I'm pasting this inside user component. Okay, so what it will do is I'm defining a set of use test cases for the user component using the describe here. This is one of my use case. So when the page is rendered, I want a span element to be rendered in my UI. So it should render the span element on page load. Okay, so I'm shallow rendering the user component. I'm just getting that text I'm finding the span and getting a text in that span, and then I'm checking if the text is equal to inside user component. Okay, so now what we can do here is I have already ran the test. So if not, you can run it like npm run test. Okay, so that will start running the test. So I have it already running here. So it looks like something has failed. So I'm just hit enter. So it is now running this test user component dot test.js. Okay, so let's see how it works. It failed. The test suite must contain at least one test. What does it mean? I have one test already written, but there was some issue with running my test. So I just stopped my server and started again and ran the test, and it worked fine. So there's absolutely no change I made. So this is basically I ran the test again. So it was the same test that we have written. Okay, it's just to check if the span element is there when the component is rendered. Okay, so I'm just running it again. And I can see this test is passed. So should render the span element on page load is passed. Okay, so let's change something into inside user components. Okay, let's see if it should fail ideally, right? Because I have the test as inside user component, and we are checking if that span is equal to inside user components, right? So which should basically fail. That test should fail. Let's see if it works or not. I'm running the test again. So yep, it failed. Okay, so it says expected is inside user components. This is what I'm expecting, but the received is inside user component, which is actually the correct. So our test is passed. Again, the test failed, which is actually what we expected. Okay, so this is how you can write a very simple test. So I'm going to keep this video very short. So in the next video we'll discuss about including some state, and then we'll have a button or something. On clicking on the button, we'll update the state, and then we'll see if that actually changes that label. Updating the state is actually working or not. So that way we can write another test. Okay, so that's all I planned for this video. So I hope you learned something from this tutorial. So if yes, then please do subscribe to my channel, and then do provide a comment, and then like this video, and also share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.